back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, coming to you live from Lagos. Reminder of our top stories. Bill to amend the Independent National Electoral Commission Act 2010 passes second reading in the Senate as the President requests for a 242 billion naira environment approved. House of Representatives threatens to summon Inspector General of Police over the arrest of a lawmaker, Abubakar Lado, by the Special Anti-Robbery Squad. Federal government drags Deputy Senate President Ike Ekweremadu and Senator Basi Akpan to court over alleged refusal to declare their assets, even as Senator Ekweremadu describes charges as laughable and malicious. An overloaded bus crashes in Kenya, killing 50 passengers. Now, channelstv.com has more information for you, and on youtube.com/channelsweb, you can watch our videos. You can also watch us on your mobile device via your browser, or download the Channels TV app for Android and iOS devices from their respective stores. Besides giving you access to news updates on the go, the Channels TV and Channels 24 app has an eyewitness feature that you can use to share pictures, videos, or news of happenings around you. Just install the app, then tap and swipe to reveal the menu, and then follow the instructions. Now let's get some perspective on the impact of perennial rain. I'm now being joined on the news at 10 by a lecturer in the Department of Geography, University of Lagos, Dr. Mayowa Fatona. Thanks a lot for joining us on the news at 10.
Good evening. Thank you very much.
Now, the pictures that are coming in across the states, very disturbing pictures, I have to say, and in many cases you see houses there submerged. How worried are you about the images you see?
Very worried, but one thing is clear. We keep discussing these things year in, year out. The key in disaster management is preparedness. We should ask ourselves, since the last major flood in 2012, what have we done? What has been in place? And we keep the key issue, another key issue in disaster is this: you can manage the unavoidable or avoid the unmanageable. But for us and for some, whatever it is, the time to manage the unavoidable, the time to avoid the unmanageable seems to have gone. Because if you go to most of the urban area, people build houses which make them very vulnerable to flood. So, it's very difficult. But we have to manage what we cannot, what we cannot avoid.
Yes.
So flood is a natural disaster. To some extent, to a reasonable extent, we may not be able to avoid it, so we just have to manage it. But what have we done? That's the case.
Yes, that's what I was going to say, because the last time I spoke to an environmentalist, that was when we had the warnings of the different states, Kogi, Delta, Anambra, Niger, and the gentleman had said, another couple of states, about 8 of them, should brace up. What sort of action can match the warnings? Because, it's okay to warn, good enough. But then what happens after the warning? Yeah,
I think that's a good thing, because warning is just one thing. What about the action? For example, if you want people leave the floodplain, and where do they go to? They want to ask you. And in the first instance, to start with, who lives in the floodplain? We don't have disaster risk map. Disaster risk is very important in disaster management. You need to know who is at risk, what level of vulnerability, and then we need to have something like a master plan for disaster management. That one we still don't have. For example, I've read the post-disaster assessment for the flood in 2012. A whole lot of things were recommended in the areas of disaster risk.
And just to cut you short there, to mention that right now we hear that the River Niger and Benue are swelling to the levels that we saw in 2012. I thought warning is out there.
It's more likely, because if you understand the hydrology of the Niger itself, this is October. Most of the waters are coming from the headwaters in the Futajallon Plateau in Guinea. Moves about 3,000 kilometers to get to, about 4,000 kilometers to get to Nigeria, to get to around Lokoja. So they won't get there until around this time. Unfortunately, again, it is around this time, it is between September and early October that we have the highest rainfall in northern Nigeria, from the latitude 9 degrees up So it's a compounded problem. But this is not new. That is the key issue. We know this. Of course, there are issues about climate change. We cannot predict when, the rain is going to fall, so on and so forth.
You say this is not new.
Oh, yeah.
And we also have from other geologists, etc., saying that the rain that we see now is not following any conventional pattern. Even this morning, you see the way the rain came down in Lagos so quickly now. What to do, about it?
The key issue is still about preparedness. We need to anticipate and act. And again, everybody has to keep, because we keep saying disaster management is everybody's business. It's not the duty of the federal government alone, it's the duty of the state, the duty of the local government, and it's the duty of individual. So, of course, another thing is that a whole lot of resources has to be devoted to research. We need to get data. We need to get data about vulnerability, about risk, and what have you, so that you can act. Because some of these things sometimes are context-specific, place and context-specific. What you need to do in one place might not be exactly what you have to do in another place. And so a whole lot of study has to be done. We still don't have some of these, these studies. If we have them, so to say, there's no action. Like I was telling you about the 2012 post-disaster assessment, there was a whole lot of recommendation that borders on preparedness, that borders on disaster risk assessment. I can't see any of them on the ground. That's the key issue. It's good, you might say, okay, it's going to, flood is going to happen, and people should evacuate. The first thing they want to ask, who is to evacuate? Who lives in the floodplain? These are some of the issues that we have to resolve.
All right, Dr. Maiwa Fatana, Department of Geography, lecturer there at the University of Lagos. Thanks for sharing your thoughts on the news at 10 tonight.
Thank you very much.
From there, let's move over to Abuja. Here's Ibrahim Adrah. Ibrahim.
Hello, Ijama. Pretty disturbing pictures of flood there. Well, back here in the Federal Capital Territory, the federal government is proposing a minimum wage of 24,000 naira, as opposed to 30,000 naira being proposed by the labor unions. However, the Minister of Labor and Productivity, Dr. Chris Ngige, has denied reports that an agreement has been reached with organized labor on the amount to be paid as minimum wage. Dr. Ngige, who spoke at a news conference after the Federal Executive Council meeting in Abuja, explained that all parties to the negotiation have put forward different figures acceptable to them. It was an uncharacteristically brief meeting. The President and Council members discussed, among other issues, the lingering debate on acceptable minimum wage for Nigerian workers. At a news conference that followed the meeting, federal government denies reaching an agreement with Labour on 30,000 naira minimum wage.
We could not arrive at a consensus. Even though we adjourned our meeting and said we'll put up a report that will reflect this position, we are still continuing to discuss.
Members of the Tripartite Committee on Minimum Wage are said to have proposed various figures. While the Labour Congress is putting for 30,000 naira as minimum, states can only pay 20,000, a figure that is also different from what the federal government is offering.
The Labour unions adjusted their figures and came down to 30,000 a month. Organized private sector adjust their figures and also came to from 25, which they had earlier proposed, to 30,000. Federal government is carrying on its own team, the governors. The state government figure as the last time was 20,000. The federal government had a figure of 24,000. And that was where we all stood.
Dr. Chris Ngige says meetings and negotiations will continue with the aim of reaching common ground. He insists that it is necessary to reach an agreement in matters of fixing minimum wages.
Yes.
The Federal Executive Council also gave approval for the construction of a 29-kilometer road that links Sokoto and Zamfara states at a cost of over 5 billion naira.
It is in a very good agricultural zone. We'll be able to ferry goods, agricultural goods, human traffic between these two states and onto the neighboring countries of Niger and Benin Republic.
The Nigerian Labour Congress only on September 30 called off its strike action to pave way for a meeting of the Minimum Wage Tripartite Committee made up of the Labour, organized private sector and the federal government. Meanwhile, APC governors today rose from a meeting with President Muhammadu Buhari with an assurance that the party will only engage on issue-based campaigns ahead of the 2019 elections. Spokesman of the governors, Governor of Imo State, Rochas Okorocha, is confident the Buhari administration has made remarkable achievement and they will showcase those to the electorate. Mr. Okorocha was speaking to State House correspondents at the presidential villa in Abuja. He said the governors were in the villa to congratulate the president for emerging as the party's flag bearer at next year's presidential election, promising to mobilize massive support for him. On the crisis thrown up by primary elections, Mr. Okorocha says the party has put in place machinery to reconcile aggrieved members.
We have come to request from Mr. President for a date for the governors to come together with our followers and supporters to further inform the world of our readiness to deliver him the 2019 election. And this just basically the message we have come, and to say that Mr. President is more than ever ready and ready for the entire exercise. Our election this time will not engage castigations or talking. We'll be talking on issues. Nigerians are tired of political abuses. What we want to be talking about is issues and track records of people involved in our elections. Nigerians are very wise now. Before they elect anybody, they will ask questions. What has been your track record? Who were you before and who are you now? And everything about you. And for that reason, we are confident that 2019 APC will pull through.
Yes, sir, but
so again, we have also looked at our issue concerning our primaries. In every democracy, you expect some kind of disagreement, and we have kindly requested that something be done to bring all warring factions together, so we can have a united party to face the challenges ahead.
You're watching Channels Television. When the news at 10 returns, federal government drags Deputy Senate President Ike Ekweremadu and Senator Basi Akpan to court over alleged refusal to declare their assets. That's after the break. Do join us again.